Good morning, Mr. Allen.
Good morning, Jewel.
Okay, I guess we're close enough to 8 o'clock.
Yes, sir. And we do have a quorum.
Oh, good. Okay, Jewel, the board secretary statement.
Yes, sir. Good morning, board, staff, and members of the public. After my statement, the chairman will open this meeting and explain the rules for this electronic meeting. Please keep your microphone on mute when you are not speaking. The technical support team may proactively mute participants if the microphone is picking up background noise. Board members should check to make sure the microphone is not muted before speaking. You may text me at 540-336-3948 at any time during the meeting if you need technical support, and an IT tech will call your cell to assist. I now turn the meeting over to Committee Chairman Sultan.
The Loudon Water Board is meeting today by electronic means pursuant to Virginia Code Paragraph 2.2-3708.2A3. Public notice and meeting access information was provided on the Loudon Water website. A recording of the meeting is available from the board secretary. Future meetings will be in person unless indicated otherwise in the public notice. Board members wishing to speak are reminded to press unmute and identify themselves by name so that staff can accurately capture comments. The board secretary will now take a roll call attendance of the members.
Thank you. Mr. Sultan,
Here.
Mr. Bonfils,
Here.
Mr. Moody,
Here.
Ms. Sursakar, Ms. Sursakar, and I'd like to acknowledge.
We lost your audio.
Thank you. I'm sorry. My microphone went out. I'd like to also acknowledge that Chair Allen is on the line. Thank you.
Okay, can we have a vote to approve the agenda or motion to approve the agenda?
This is Keith. I'll make the motion. Jim, I second.
Jewel, vote?
Yes, Mr. Sultan,
Yes.
Mr. Bonfils,
Yes.
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
and Ms. Sursakar. Thank you.
Okay, we have one action item, amendment of design contract, Broad Run Water Reclamation Facility, Phase 3, Design Task 2. Kendra?
Sorry.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm waiting to, there we go. Now I've got control of the presentation. I'm excited to be here this morning to give everyone an update on our progress on the Phase 3 expansion of Broad Run, and we will be requesting an amendment to start the 30% design on our second construction package. So today we're going to run through our background and update on the program progress, give you an updated schedule, and then complete the request for this next design task. So the Broad Run Phase 3 expansion has the ultimate goal of increasing capacity of Broad Run to 30 MGD. And this is just a reminder of some of the background we've given previously. So when we call this the Phase 3 expansion, Phase 1 of Broad Run was the original construction, and that took the treatment plant capacity to 10 MGD, giving us an overall wastewater capacity of about 23.8. The Phase 2 expansion is under construction right now. This will take Broad Run to 15 MGD, giving us an overall wastewater capacity of 28.8 MGD. And in the overall planning for this facility, there is a need for additional capacity when we look at it relative to the drinking water that we can supply to this service area. We definitely need to continue to invest in Broad Run, and we went through an extensive planning period to select the next increment, and that is to add another 15 MGD of treatment to take Broad Run up to 30. Overall, this will give us 43.8 MGD of wastewater, and this is a nice match to the drinking water capacity that we have. But also with this work, we made the decision to advance our solids treatment on site and upgrade to thermal drying. This is going to produce a higher quality biosolids product from Broad Run. It will reduce the quality of biosolids that leave the facility, quantity of biosolids that leave the facility, and will help prepare us for future regulations that may come. So when we look at overall what this means, our first construction package as part of this program is going to be the site prep. And so this site right here shows you in our light color is our existing facility. In the shaded area is our first construction package where we will come in and level this ground. We'll do any rock removal that's needed and prep for the construction of all the facilities that we will see. But in terms of scale of this project, this is large work. It's more area than we originally disturbed to build the plant. So we're still just a major undertaking. The work on this first construction package was approved by the board early last year and is already working through design. So construction package 2 is our most time critical package. This is to come in and to increase our solids treatment capacity, both in our secondary treatment and our biosolids. And that's what we're going to be talking about starting the design for today. The last part of the overall phase 3 expansion will be our construction package 3, which moves back to the existing part of the plant in light blue and will expand overall treatment capacity to 20 MGD. Then the fourth treatment package comes back, does much more heavy infrastructure to get the overall site up to 30. When we look at our program schedule overall, this work is going to take place over the next 10 years. And when we did our initial planning, we designed these construction packages to be individualized work in areas to optimize what was time critical and to be able to give us the ability to adapt moving forward if regulation changes come, if growth in the county might look differently in 2035 than it does now. It gives us the ability to adapt as we go along when we're making these large infrastructure changes. So as we've mentioned before, the overall project budget is $650 million. This was developed as a parametric estimate. So that means we looked at a typical cost for 15 million gallons of membrane technology or a 30 MGD thermal drying facility. So it was really just a scaled cost to get us an overall target. And we knew that with this cost, this is going to be one of the largest capital undertakings that Loudon Water has completed. And so we put some strategies in place to help us manage this large budget, one of which was the phasing of these construction packages to help us adapt as we move forward and to be able to manage cost as the market changes. We're also utilizing third-party cost estimators so that we have a verification of the cost estimates that are being prepared by our design engineer. We are also monitoring the metrics for similar projects within Loudon Water, other large infrastructure like the Potomac Water Supply, but also within the industry. There's a lot of thermal drying facilities being built right now. So we can look at their project costs relative to ours to make sure that the spending is in line with what other utilities are seeing. So an update on where we are in this large timeline. We completed the planning at the end of 2022 and brought forward to the board what we wanted the phase 3 expansion to be. At that time, we requested to start the design on the site work because we needed to get out there early to get the site prepped. But we also needed to complete a basis of design report so that we could get our first line item cost estimate. It was important to move forward from that parametric budget to a real cost estimate for what we want to build at Loudon Water. And we've completed that and want to start talking about those results today. And we're ready to move forward and start the design of construction package 2, which I mentioned is our time critical package of capacity that we need to get online by the end of the 2020s as we get into 2030. So today we're just doing a request for the 30% design. We'll come back at the end of the year and request the final design amendment for construction package 2. We'll also be back later this year to do some early procurement of our major equipment manufacturers. So we'll be back several times to talk to the board as we move through this process. So to move into the specific request today.
I have a question.
Yes.
This may show my ignorance, I don't know. You're increasing thermal drying, but you're not increasing digestion capacity. Are they related or am I off base?
So absolutely. Don't have a process flow diagram to back up to, but that's okay. So what thermal drying does is it actually replaces the need to even digest the biosolids. We will still use our digesters, but we will use it only for primary sludge. Right now, we're using that digestion to meet our permit requirements. The thermal dryer will now do that. And that was part of what we evaluated in the planning phase was we could have built more digesters and stayed at a Class B biosolids, but the ability to replace that treatment process with the thermal dryer and get a higher quality biosolids out of it really improved the cost benefit of what we were getting. So we aren't building more digesters because the thermal dryer replaces that need.
So those solids go directly to thermal drying and bypass the digestion?
A portion of them will. We do still want to digest some of the solids because we want to get the biogas out of them. And we reuse that biogas as an energy source within the plant. So we're just strategic about it. And we just digest the solids that have the gas value in it. Some of the solids we produce that go through the digesters right now are kind of just taking up space because they don't have a biogas value. Those we will bypass and go straight to the dryer with.
Okay, thanks.
So this version of our site plan really focuses just on the infrastructure for our construction package 2. And this we're going to be talking about a lot over the next couple of years. So we wanted to go into package 2 in a little more detail. So as part of this package, we're going to be building more biological reactors and more membrane treatment. This is the heart of treatment at Broad Run and one of our major needs for additional capacity at this time. To support these facilities, we're also going to need additional chemical addition because we add alum to our biological reactors for phosphorus removal, and we also add methanol to help us with our nitrogen removal. And then, as we just discussed, the new thermal drying facility is a very large facility, but it not only increases our treatment capacity because we'll have our existing digesters and our thermal dryers now at this time, but we're producing a higher quality dried pellet biosolids. This is actually better for the land application process. It has a higher value in the market and is a necessary step if the future regulation comes to remove PFAS from the biosolids. You would have to go from a thermal dryer to an advanced oxidation process, which we are saving space for here on the north side of the site. So this movement to take this additional treatment process really made a lot of sense at this time, both with the capacity need that we just discussed and not having to build more digesters, but also preparing us for that future modification. So these SWM, this is stormwater management that's going to be required because we are disturbing a large portion of the site that was just open grassland at this point. So the new stormwater management will manage all runoff for the full expansion. We're putting that in at the beginning so that everything is graded and sloped appropriately for stormwater, and then we will need additional odor control facilities as part of this process. When we start to talk about the cost of this, we want to keep mentioning the scale. So our current phase 2 expansion is taking Broad Run from 10 MGD to 15. So to get that 5 MGD capacity, just in reference, we're adding new concrete structures on the west and a new equalization tank. So this is relatively small compared to the large amount of concrete that we're going to have to be putting in phase 3. This concrete is about a quarter of what will go in the overall phase 3 work. So we feel like in pictures, it can sometimes be hard to grasp the scale of what we're talking about, but this is major infrastructure that we are going to be putting in, and very large buildings and structures, but it's the heart of treatment in Broad Run, and it's an important investment in getting more capacity on the site. So when we completed the BODR, we received our first real cost estimate on the package 2 construction. And this cost came in at a midpoint estimate of $384 million. Now, this is still a very early estimate for construction cost estimating. So we've shown the plus or minus that this estimate could range in, because things will continue to change as we move through design, and then design will take about 2 years. And I'm sure, as you are all aware, with the high level of market variability we're seeing right now, there is a lot of contingency built into this estimate about where escalation might go through our 2 years of design and 4 years of construction, about where individual commodity pricing might be at the time we actually bid this. So the wide range for this estimate is the project could come in between 300 million and 600 million, but we will continue to update this estimate as we move through design, which will take place in 2024 and 2025. It gives us the ability to continue to monitor the market. We did do our third-party cost estimate on this number, and that third-party estimate did really verify that we are capturing some good safety factors, and the market volatility is accounted for well in this level of cost estimate with the range we're showing. So it's just going to be important that we all keep in mind our 300 to 600 range. This number will move around as time goes by. This is one of the reasons why we're just requesting a 30% design task today and not the full design of the package. We want to complete some additional alternative analysis, because we are utilizing the staged approach to this project to say, if the market is variable right now, we want to make sure we're building what we need now, and we can reserve for future construction anything that might be able to wait. We also want to take the time in our 30% design to secure those major equipment packages. This is important, that we have a good sound design around our selected manufacturers for the big equipment. That's the membranes and the thermal dryer as we move forward. So we anticipate a 9-month schedule to get through 30%. This is going to give us time to do a preliminary engineering report, which will complete those last alternatives that need to be evaluated and really finalize the scope of what we want in this package and what will be deferred into package 3 or 4. We will develop 30% design plans and specifications and begin the permitting process. So the movement to a thermal dryer is going to require modifications to our current air permit, as well as our BPVS discharge permit. So we want to start that process early. We've got a good idea of what needs to be done. It just takes time to work through those processes. So starting this 30% design, getting everything nailed down, allows us to start permitting early, so that that doesn't delay the overall construction of the project. So August 2024 is the general timeframe when we should be back, and we will then be asking for the amendment for the complete design once we've got the firm scope on this design package. So our fee for the consultant on the 30% is $5,945,000. That's broken down into project management, our preliminary engineering report, the design plans and specifications, and permitting. So we wanted to give, some relative metrics for, just this small part of the fee, because typically the board has looked at, overall design contracts and not a small portion of a design contract like this. So when we start with our $384 million construction cost, we typically estimate 10% of that construction cost as the design budget to get all the way from where we are now to a bid package. Our 30% number is about 15% of this overall budget. This is right in line with where we think it should be. 30% can often be a big part of design because you're working out all the minor details at this point. So that typically ranges anywhere from 20 to 25% of your overall design budget. So we've got a good price with it being only 15% of that target. And really at this point, we're going to start getting economies of scale because this design project is so large and we're building very large tanks. We will see some of these percentages come down over time as part of the design. So this is a very reasonable design fee for the level of what we're looking at. And what we're here to request today is the amendment for this fee. And so that moves me into the recommended motion today, unless there are any other questions.
Hi, this is Keith. I do have a question. When you mentioned the parametric cost estimation to determine a 650 million budget, could you just explain that a little bit more? I'm just trying to understand it. Is that primarily based on, then you're extrapolating out based on some known facts and you're extrapolating those known facts? I was just curious, what are some of the key known drivers for that extrapolation?
When we were developing that fee, we were in the planning stages. And if I move back to, just to give us a visual, because I like my visuals here. When we did our overall plan, we just knew that we needed 15 million gallons of BRBs and membranes. We didn't have drawings of it or a site plan. So we weren't able to go to a cost estimator and say, give me a line item cost estimate. So what we looked at that time was, well, we have our own BRBs and membranes. And we said, well, how much did it cost to build this 15 MGD of capacity? So those costs came from 2008 and 2020. So we took those costs, we scaled them up to 2021 dollars at the time and got a parametric value and said, we spent, so many $1 million per MGD of flow to get that. For the thermal drying facility, we didn't have a frame of reference because Loudon Water's never done that. So our design engineer looked at similar size projects and said, well, there's a lot of thermal drying facilities in Georgia right now. So the last one built in Georgia, they spent X number of dollars per MGD of capacity, and we scaled it up like that. Because we didn't have enough detail on the design of the facilities to get any better estimate at that point. Which is why we moved into a basis of design report. So the number that you're seeing for package 2 now was a line item cost estimate. And that cost estimate was 150 pages long on just package 2. There's so much infrastructure here that we're building, and we needed to take that step to be able to have sufficient documents to show to a cost estimator. Does that help answer that question?
Oh, yes, very much so. Thank you, Kendra. That definitely clarifies a lot for me. Thank you.
Did you read every 150 pages?
I actually did. I sent them a lot of questions back because I had a hard time believing some of the costs that we're seeing, right? The cost of concrete has gone up 75% from when we did the phase 2 expansion. So because I had a hard time believing, I questioned so many of those line items that I think they got a little tired of me. And how could odor control piping cost this much money to get from point A to point B? But our whole design team is really putting, a lot of detailed effort into this to make sure that we know what we're building and that we're building smart, because we know the costs are big and we don't want to just look over it and say, oh, we're just going to, build as much as we want. We want to make sure we're smart about it.
This is just a detail, just my curiosity. The thermal drying, how is that powered? Natural gas?
So it is going to be natural gas powered, but we can use our biogas for that as well. So in our 30% design, one of the evaluations we have, because right now we use our biogas to heat our digesters. So we're going to do an evaluation. Does it make more sense to keep it at the digesters, or does it make more sense to use it at the thermal dryer, or is there another value we could get from that biogas? But it is natural gas powered. So that's going to be a big change in natural gas demand on the site.
Mr. Allen has a question.
Yeah, Kendra, this is Terry. You said that design services are typically 10% of construction costs. And when I look at the total construction, it's 540 million. And when I look at the design and CA services is 110. It looks more like 20%. What am I missing? Is it because the CA services is in there?
Yeah, the construction services is typically another 10%.
Okay, thank you.
And so one thing that I did want to mention on, sorry, my mouse is very sensitive. There we go. On this overall budget, as we bid each of these construction packages, it gives us a chance to come back and update that budget. And really, that's our best time to see how the market is responding as we bid out. And that is where, when we bid phase 1, we'll have, not phase 1, sorry, construction package 1, we can update the budget. When we get our bid on construction package 2, another good time to update the budget. And that's how we really plan to utilize these phase contracts to say, what is still in the budget? Does the budget need to be adjusted over time? We've got a good ability to monitor this as we move forward and make smart decisions versus just trying to move forward with the whole program at once. Would have been really difficult to try to manage costs. Whoops, I busted out of the presentation, sorry. All right, so at this time, we have the recommended motion for this amendment.
I'll read the recommended motion, but I think we need a discussion after I read it to see whether we want to go consent or action. I move the board authorize the general manager to execute an amendment to the professional services contract with Hazen and Sawyer for the Broad Run Reclamation Facility Phase 3 expansion project for design task 2, 20% design, 30% design, with an estimated not to exceed cost of $5,945,000 and authorize an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget not to exceed $6,242,000. Additional costs will require board approval. Can I get a second?
Yeah, this is Keith. I'll give a second.
Why don't we vote on this and then we can discuss whether to go consent or whether to go consent or action. Jewel, can you have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Sultan,
Yes.
Mr. Bonfils.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Moody
Yes.
and Ms. Sursakar.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, do we have any comments from committee members on whether to go action or consent?
I would like to propose that we put this on an action item. So I think the board needs to discuss this further.
Any other comments? Well, Kendra, I hate to have you do it again at the board meeting, but I'll agree with going action item on this. This is pretty major.
Yeah.
Your presentation was absolutely excellent.
Thank you. I don't mind.
Thank you, Kendra. I appreciate that. I do see some things that I do want to discuss with the board. So it's always very detailed. And I've noticed in the past when we bring the board and when you do the presentation again, there's always other questions that come up. And so I just want to make sure that I have a complete consensus with other board members. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate your presentation.
I'll go along with the going action item for this. Do we
Yeah,
need a vote?
I would just add, if I may, that going forward, I would like to have a lot of these committees vet these items as thoroughly as possible and try to make as many action items, consent items as we can. I'm not alluding to this one specifically, but I just feel like there's a pattern forming where we're punting everything to the board. And I think the status, the formation of the committees is to try to really hammer these details out so that they become consent items. But having said that, if the committee wants to put it on action, I support that.
No, I agree with you, Terry. I think sometimes it's a tough decision whether to go action or consent. But like was mentioned before, if you go consent, a board member can still ask for a presentation at the meeting. At
Correct.
the board meeting. Okay, let's go action item with this. And Kendra, thanks a lot. Again, excellent presentation, fascinating.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay, the next item. I don't have the, oh, there we go. Capital spending report.
Good morning. Not a whole lot to report here. This is spending through the end of August. And the total spending was $46.8 million, a little bit of a dip below the mid-year reforecast, and that's primarily due to spending in the finance program. That it's lagging by about $5 million. So I don't know if there's any specific questions, but I'd be happy to answer any I can.
I don't have any questions. Does anybody else have a question?
This is Keith, no questions for me.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, let's see. It looks like there's nothing else on the agenda, at least on my screen. Let's see.
So the next thing is the tentative agenda and then adjourn the meeting.
Yep,
Do I have a
those
motion?
two.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so moved that we adjourn the meeting.
This is
I
Keith, I'll
second.
second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Sultan,
Yes?
Mr. Bonfils,
Yes?
Mr. Moody,
Yes.
Ms. Sarsakar.
Yes.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 8:32 a.m.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.